You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the host or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
Good morning, Moguls. I'm your host, Sean Eaglin, and you are watching Mogul on the Move. First, I want to say prayers up for those who were affected during the winter storm and who are still dealing with issues, whether it be plumbing issues, financial issues, displaced. So prayers to everyone who was affected in the winter storm and still struggling with that. So today, I must say this guest is a true example of beautiful inside and out. Aww. Because she is the sweetest person, the best personality, I have to say that. And so definitely you're in your correct industry. Please help me introduce Ms. LaToya Hurley.
I am so happy to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
And happy International Women's Month.
Same to you. It just was, it was like it was right on point for me to be here. Yes, so this is exciting.
Yes. Thanks. So I must say, with this being International Women's Month, and I always ask this question, whether it be a male or female, for the various platforms, who is that woman during your childhood that inspired you?
So if I had to pick any person, I would definitely say my mother. Growing up, this is the person that worked 3 jobs, literally.
Wow.
She was a full-time manager by day. She also did emergency registration in the evening.
Wow.
And then she had a medical assistant degree and she worked on the weekends. And she put, even though we stayed in a very impoverished neighborhood, we never felt like we were poor. My brother went to private school. And so when you see that type of example and then you get older.
Hardworking.
Yes.
Resilient. That is resilience.
Yes. I just think about, you think like, oh, she comes home and she's so tired. And I couldn't understand why as a child, but as an adult, you reflect back on that and you're like, oh my God, the resilience that you had to have in order to do that. And so
with children,
with kids,
3 jobs. So this is why you guys know my empathy for laziness is always an all-time 0.
I agree. I 100% agree.
So if someone can work 3 jobs with children, there's not like you have to take accountability. And I think that was it's the difference between now and what we saw back then.
Yeah. Our parents knew what hard work looked like and they exemplified that for us. And I think sometimes this younger generation doesn't have a great example of what that resiliency looks like. And so I try to be
now let's go there. All right, moguls, let's go there. I just had this conversation last night, and this is with a male friend. And he was sharing with me about the neighbor's children and how the youngest child that's a male, they let him whine, like when the other kids are outside playing. He doesn't want to share. He takes other people's balls doesn't want to share their balls now. And so he says, I get on him and say, no, we're not going to do that here. But his parents are like, oh, come on, it's okay. And I said, you know what? this child is going to be, Hellraiser, in school, and they're going to blame the teacher for the child not being disciplined.
Absolutely.
And you're sending your child to school to learn, not to be, like, we have to, like, we're spoiling these kids, and we're wondering why they have no sense of accountability.
We coddle them. So think about when we were growing up, like, and I tell people, I say, when I was in elementary school, and this was when my parents were still together. So at some point, my parents got divorced, and that's when my mom worked these 3 jobs.
Yeah.
The principal would discipline us, even all throughout high school, because my brother went to a private school. He got paddled.
Yes.
And that was a part of, you knew if you did something wrong, you were going to get paddled.
Consequences.
And so there was, accountability.
Ooh, that thing is real. Please bring back corporal punishment.
Well,
they never will, but
the neighbors would discipline you. You could be in the neighborhood, and the neighbors would be like, oh, that's such a so-and-so child. Oh, yes. No, we
I have permission. Look, your parent would give permission to specific neighbors or friends or family members that they trusted and knew that, they had your best interest at heart to discipline you. It was truly, now this is so true, it was truly a village.
Yes.
It was truly a community. Now, community to me is almost a surface phrase as it pertains to neighbors.
Yes.
Not, your social group or your sphere of influence, your friend group. Of course, there's depth there. But as it pertains to neighborhoods and neighbors and how we grew up, it's totally,
I agree,
totally different. There's really not 100%. A village. So let me ask you this. What woman, as an adult in your adulthood, do you feel like inspired you the most?
So Michelle Obama is my adult inspiration. Woman crush Wednesday. Woman crush every day.
Yes.
She is the epitome of grace and Black excellence. And just when you talk about, because I hear people use some terminology like, oh, sexy and X, Y, and Z. And
she's all of the above.
And she's fully clothed. And she is everything that can.
She may have a little shoulder here and there, which I love.
I love it. Yeah, give us a little sneak peek. Just a little sneak peek. And I think it's okay to show
do that just to give an ode to Michelle. Our engineer is really having a good time, guys. If you can see his face.
I think it's important to still leave something to the imagination.
Yes.
And so she has that. And not only that, but she's educated. And the relationship that her and Barack have, I look at that and you can tell the difference between someone that has synergy with their significant other and they still have this endearment versus those that are in contempt of one another. Yes. I'm here because I have to be.
It's a business deal.
I hope you hurry up and leave and go to work.
It's a business deal. I went out with my guy friend, and one of his friends was talking about marriage and was saying, sometimes as you get older, it becomes a business deal. And that makes sense. And I agree with that in a sense of, I don't see myself being married to someone who's not financially conscious.
I agree.
Financially stable, financially mature.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not going to stay in a marriage when there's no love and it's only a business deal and we're not enjoying each other's company. Now, you're going to have bumps along the road,
Absolutely.
Right? That's just a part of life, right? But still you could tell they're still friends.
Yes.
Now, you actually attended the book tour in Dallas like I did. So we were there. Isn't that funny?
Yes, it is. Oh, it's a small world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So what I enjoyed most about her was that she definitely believes in pouring into women.
Yes.
And she definitely is who she is. Like, I'm going to speak my mind. She cursed a couple of times, and I do that every now and then.
I do too.
I'm not a curser,
use a couple curse words every once in a while.
Then I will. And I was like taken aback, but I was like, okay. She's like, look, whatever comes out respectfully. She wasn't, being disrespectful, but was sharing some of her stories. She was sharing some of the verbiage, and so she seems like a very well-rounded individual.
Yes,
which is what I think some people can put you on a pedestal. And you're only this in this, this box here. But she literally is outside of the box with everything. So I really, she's one of the women that I admired as well. She and Oprah, I will say, I think are the two that I've admired how they've carried themselves and still been very personable. throughout their careers. You know, her being the first lady, Oprah being who she is,
Absolutely.
the media mogul. So let me say this: because you're in a very unique industry.
Yes.
What did you always want to be a publicist? Did you always want to work hand in hand? Because really, a publicist is almost like a manager. I'm just gonna keep it real. You really kind of are, because you have to manage that person's
I got
schedule.
a better word, but we're gonna go with that. I like that.
That's one of your hats. It's like psychiatrist.
Yes.
You know, financial planner, because you have to kind of get on them sometimes. So, did you always want to be in this field, or was there something that happened, an event that happened, or something that happened to kind of push you to this area?
I can honestly say becoming a publicist was accidental.
Okay.
When I started out my career, because like I said, my mom's background was in the medical industry.
Okay.
She was heavily pushing me towards going into the medical industry,
okay.
and then specifically nursing, because there was always going to be a demand
Always.
for nurses. And so that was where she was like, hey, go to school. I'm originally from New Orleans, so that is where I grew up. Yeah.
So you know Shonya, right?
I don't.
Shonya Johnson? Okay.
But you know what? We're going to look and see when we offline, because maybe I do.
know.
I'm more of a face person.
Okay.
And my aunt on my father's side actually was over the nursing program at Dillard University.
Okay.
So they were like, oh, you've got to go.
That's a given.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to go. So I go, following their lead, following their feedback. And this is why I always tell people, find out what you want to do.
Yes.
Don't listen to your parents. It is great advice, but find out what you want to do.
They live their own lives.
Yes, they lived it.
Live
and so they're giving you advice, and not that they have any sort of ill will, but it is definitely based on their life experiences, what works for them. I go into nursing, and here's a completely transparent moment. This is when I figured out it ain't what I want to do. I took anatomy, and if anybody has ever taken anatomy, you have to learn every single muscle, bone, part of the body, and that is a part of you passing. And so I've got 1,000 note cards trying to figure it out. Failed anatomy, failed chemistry. I didn't fail chemistry. I actually got a D, and I begged for that D. I was like, I just need a C.
Yes. So obviously you were not enjoying.
No, I was not enjoying this experience.
Science, period. Yes. No.
I leave college to go into the workforce and moved to Houston. And that is when my first job, which ended up turning or becoming my career and leading me down this path, led me into marketing, which then later fed into PR. So in the department that I was in, we did marketing, but because it was such a big department, so I worked at waste management for 5 years.
Okay.
But it was in the municipal department where they did the governmental contracts, the HOAs, and there was a component of PR. So I got a taste of it, but we were truly doing marketing, and that's where I've kind of decided, okay, I like this. Yes, this is it.
Yeah,
and then from there, it evolved. I ended up meeting a young lady that was a publicist. She came to work for my company because I was doing marketing, and I put her underneath my company as one of my staff members.
Okay.
And that's when I added the PR leg and said, oh, okay, so I can do this also.
Yes.
Then went back to school for marketing. But that was never the intent in the beginning. So
that's good that you went back.
Yes.
That's inspiring.
You're never too old to go back to school.
Never.
It's always a good thing. There are things that you're going to learn. Definitely on hand or on the job experience is definitely more important to me in an employee than it is going to school. But there's a lot of great information and knowledge that I picked up at school that I can now translate. But a big component of that is because I worked first, I then could transfer that knowledge into what I was doing at work. So,
so interesting. So let me ask you this. As we close out of this segment, do you feel like a person should have a plan B, or do you think there's always a back and forth about that? This is what I have to be. Or do you feel like it's okay to have a plan B? Like for you, you were going for nursing, but you weren't just set. And maybe it's because that wasn't your passion. But I always say, especially nowadays, you need to have a B and a C. You really need to have multiple streams of income.
You do need to have multiple streams of income. And this is what I will say, because I did both. So I tell people I burned the candle at both ends of the stick. I worked in corporate and ran my business for 7 years before I decided to do PR full time and run the company. It was a great safety net. I had bills and financial obligations. And it taught me, so people don't let people talk you out of, paying bills. It's a real thing.
You are an adult. You have bills, especially if you have people that have children say, I'm just going to quit my job. Oh, okay, do you have like 6 months of reserve? Well, no, I'm just going to trust in God. No, God gives us wisdom. Even
with 6 months of reserve, and that's what my financial advisor told me, it was still tough. Like I tell people, I said, there's things that I can tell you about running a business that I didn't run into until I actually did it full time.
Ran the business.
Yeah, until I was full time in the business. But I tell people, do what works for you. Don't follow the concept of, I have to, jump off the cliff and quit my job. It is good. So I will say this. The one thing that I have learned is I have more time to focus on cultivating the business clients and do more of the things that I need to develop the business versus when I was in corporate. But corporate served as a great tool for me. I learned customer service.
Exactly.
I learned the importance because I also saw it from sitting at someone else's business, how it impacts the bottom line.
And learning from an example that is productive.
Yes.
That is a success.
Yes.
Okay, guys, so we're going to close out this segment and come back. And we're going to just celebrate a few women. And I guess we can start off with our 46th Vice President of the United States of America.
Okay.
I'm excited. What a year. It's been a hard year, but it's also been a joyous year because we're seeing her story.
Yes.
Her story.
Yes.
History.
Yes, we are.
We'll be right back in just a few, guys.
EDGE is about community, synergy, and empowerment.
The responsibility be on this? Should we have had a national plan, or should
that the government needs to get out of the way and let people figure it out?
What do you do for your face? So I do have a skincare line called Infinity Skincare. And welcome back to How You Living on Edge Radio Live. So to Jennifer, I'm just saying live, and I'm out.
Peace.
And say we not working, okay?
Cannot say we not working.
Say that we are.
No, they're just ready to get back out there and start sexing up other people.
Yeah.
That we weren't interested in any silver medals. If they wanted to give us the gold medal that we earned.
给我穿的观众，我是富卡，今天又到了我们
It's a hotel kind of vibe.
Well, I mean, I'm
we're
sure he's like,
turning
I
down
don't
to say,
hear
here's
you
the dinner,
complaining
man.
about the cheap sensation cocktail. This is our first mixed cocktail. We have.
Three.
Yeah, very good margarita. Good margarita.
Folks, as always, this is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get, right? So to the Edge Radio Network, we are going to be bringing you continuous, interesting conversations, interesting encounters, interesting experiences, education, knowledge, and a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, folks. So you don't want to miss it. So
when people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Welcome back, moguls. Now, I want to take time. Go ahead and LaToya, give them your handles, social media handles, so they can find you, and even your website. They can find you online if they need your services.
Absolutely. So on the personal side, Latoya Hurley across all social media. If you are looking for the company on Instagram, it's innovating_marketing. And if you're looking for us on Facebook, Innovating Marketing Group. The website is www.innovatingmarketinggroup.com. And if you are looking to email us to set up an exploratory call to see how we can help grow your business or help you with any sort of media placement, info@innovatingmarketinggroup.com.
All right, guys. So I hope you're writing that down. Now, let me ask you this. What type of individual or business do you represent, or is it various industries?
So we represent a full spectrum of individuals. It's very diverse. We have everybody from real estate, financial advisors, to nonprofits. But if I had to put those into a category, I would say we represent small to mid-sized business owners. We do also have some high-profile individuals, and that would be the second tier, where it comes down to whether it be celebrities or individuals that are in the public eye that require somebody to manage their public image.
Okay, so guys, if you have a small to mid business, you definitely want to reach out, because she has a plethora of experience, even in the corporate world. And we're going to get back to that on the next segment. But since it is International Women's Month,
yes,
let's highlight a few women. So we can start off with our vice president, our madam vice president. Vice President Harris. What was that experience like, watching the first female and the first female African American woman, and Asian, because she is African American and South Asian descent, be sworn in? What feelings came up when you were watching that?
As a fellow woman, as a fellow African American, moments like this are so pivotal for us, because it lets us know, one, that we are making progress. And sometimes you look at where we were at over the course of the last 4 years, and when you look at it, it's discouraging. But then you see this type of event and it says, wow, look at how far we're coming. That is what Obama represented. That is what she represented to us. Progress. And I feel like, just like in the words of Martin Luther King, we are headed to the promised land. When we have an African American woman that is vice president, we have now had an African American man that was president, and they are doing it with grace and elegance. And
in the same generation.
Yes.
This is the same generation that they both. Yes. I mean, when I say great strides, just to think, I'm going to say 20 years ago. You don't even have to go back 50 years. You could say 20 years ago. Would have never dreamt. My grandfather was still living at that time, and he was like, I just don't think they're going to let him be president. I just don't think they're going to.
Exactly.
Like that generation that was born in the early 1900s, they just, the early 20th century, they just never thought it would ever happen.
Agreed.
And now we have double dipped. We have.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, it really is, I have to say, I felt the same way with Obama. It was like a surreal experience. Like, is this really happening? I felt the same way with Harris. Like, it was
I think they restore hope for us.
It's like, wow, we still have integrity in this nation. There is still, like you said, hope left. We still have the opportunity to come together.
Absolutely.
And to be a great nation. Not make America great again, because I don't know when it's ever been great.
I agree. You won't get a complaint out of me.
My Republican viewers, when have we ever been great?
Well, you know what's interesting? I did a podcast in which we discussed that. And so the whole concept and notion that we're going to make it great again, like you said, implies that we started out great. And so we're restoring it to some shape, form, or fashion that it was previously. And that's not the case. When you make a statement like that, you disregard all of the negative actions that have impacted individuals like African Americans.
Exactly.
All of the others that have been oppressed in this country. And so it is a unified effort. We're not saying we don't want to get to a point of greatness. It gives us something to strive for. But when you imply that we are returning to greatness, tell me what point in time was it great?
Native Americans wouldn't agree. African Americans, Hispanic.
Pick a point. That's why I'm like, tell me something.
So many, and it mind boggles me, because even those of European descent struggled
Yeah.
When they came, you know, like you fought against your former homeland, to create the beginning of the United States. So it just mind boggles me how people can disassociate as they I guess rise in power, rise in wealth, and those two go hand in hand. Because to me, now this is just me. I like to have optimism and I like to be real.
I'm a bit of both too.
You will always have separation of class.
Absolutely.
It's just not going. You know, it's just it is what it is,
Absolutely.
right? Because and some of it goes to some people are going to work harder than others. Some people esteem for different things. There's just going to be variation because we're all different. But I do agree that we can at least strive to be more respectful to one another, you know, to have more empathy for lower class, you know, to lower middle, just to want to ensure that all citizens at least have a fair chance. Now, we all won't take it, but
actually, you know what? I want to speak on that. So so it's interesting that you say that. Growing up, we grew up very much so in an underserved, what I like to call community. If you're familiar with New Orleans, it's a very impoverished city.
I lived there. I went to Xavier my first 2 years.
Yes. And so you're familiar with the culture. Coming to Houston, it was definitely an opportunity for me. I had access to resources that I don't feel like I would have had access to in New Orleans.
No.
And so it definitely helped me to catapult, really figure out what I wanted to do, and then rise above the means that I was in when I was in New Orleans.
So explaining New Orleans, guys, those who've never lived there and have only gone to visit for Mardi Gras or for what is it, Southern events,
exactly, one of those major events or festivals, Essence Festival, where you're there seeing the prettier side of the city. But for
there's not much middle class. New Orleans, either you have money or you don't.
Yeah, it's a huge disparity.
Yes.
Either you're poor or you have money, and it's either or.
Yeah.
And so even as I talk about my mom working 3 jobs, the wage in New Orleans is much less than what it is here in Houston. So when I say she worked 3 jobs, it's realistic because in order for her to be able to provide the living that she provided for us, she had to work 3 jobs. So my brother going to private school, we literally stayed in a 2-bedroom house and my mom slept on the sofa, and people look at me in astonishment. But I'm like, when you look at the living wage in New Orleans, you will understand why I say what I say. But coming back to the point, I, for all intensive purposes, got to Houston, and let's just say I made it. I don't live rich, but I'm not poor. There's truly different tiers and classes here in Houston. So I moved to a nice community. I can provide my kids with a decent living. Exactly. And so when I got to corporate and I was working in oil and gas, the same concept of what you said, I felt like, hey, a lot of people need to work harder. They need to strive. They need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, in the wake of COVID and also the George Floyd murder, because we're not going to call it anything other than that.
Exactly.
I came to the realization then, and there were events that took place prior to that. Trayvon Martin, we stayed in a gated community when I first moved out to my community where I'm living at. And it became real that could have been my son. Because we stayed in a gated community. I don't understand exactly the bylaws to the science. And so the things that they were talking about, the technicalities of that could have very well been my son. One of my neighbors, I work a lot, so they don't know me. And so there's a realism about that. That kind of leveled the playing field to say it doesn't matter how far we rise, that this can still be you. So it's important that you reach back, because they will show you when you get too far ahead. Exactly who you are and what your position is. And this is why now more so than ever, it's more important to me to reach back and help others that were in the city that I'm from, that are in different positions. Because I mean, if I really broke it down, I was a teenage mom with 2 kids. Both of my kids I had before the age of 19, and I did happen to overcome. Now it does take a certain matter of working hard.
Listen, Superwoman, Black Girl Magic, Superwoman, all of the above. Shiro.
But
no excuses.
No, but God is it. And that's why I said, like, we have to, and this is why
God,
for me.
God and hard work.
Yes, God and hard work. Very much so.
Because God is not going to stop asking God to bless you.
Faith without work is
extraordinarily, and you sitting at home doing nothing.
Faith without work is
on social media all day.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Girl, I cannot. Now let's speak on that, because my soul cringes when I go back and think about when I entered the real estate industry, came from corporate, same thing, raised, we came from a generation where we were taught, you go to college and that's it.
Absolutely.
Anything other than that, and there are degrees for real estate, but it just wasn't thought as something that, and I will say this, maybe an African American woman can succeed and be very successful. That was just like a one-off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're raised in a traditionally structured, and literally everybody, all the women in my family, I'm the only one I think that doesn't have a second degree. Even my younger sister has a master's, but so that's what we were taught: go to school and do that, right? And so when I entered, I'm like, okay, take the leap of faith. I've always loved architecture. Growing up in Beaumont before I moved to Houston, you would go and see all the, down Magnolia Street, all the beautiful plantation homes. But the architecture and the columns and stuff were just so attractive to me, right?
Absolutely.
Even going downtown Beaumont, not small, but just seeing the, what we thought was skyscrapers, but they really aren't. Just architecture, and I've always been a people's person, right? So I feel like this would be the perfect career, right? And so I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to approach these women that I esteem, and they're going to give me knowledge, and they're going to tell me what to look out for, or what I should focus on. And when I tell you the two women that I approached, like, I'm just so excited. Thank you for meeting with me. Did not want to share. Yeah. Like, all I'm asking for is advice and opinion. I'm not asking for you to give me leads.
Right.
You can't even share, and you're an African American woman, and you can't share advice and opinion.
I agree.
So the next segment, we're going to talk about
hello,
just professionalism, truly being what you reflect.
Absolutely.
Because people will start seeing through the facade.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yes. So sharing and knowing that we're in Houston, Texas. So trust me, there is enough business for us all.
For all of us to eat.
Yes. Let's delve into this. This is a really, really interesting conversation cocktail, we must say, for today, guys. So we'll be right back in just a few.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
Aren't you tired of not getting what you want in bed?
Are you ready to spice things up behind those closed doors?
Woo! We're here for you every hump day at 7 p.m.
This is Sex on the Edge with Jen and Hen. I'm Jennifer Reeves.
And I'm Hendrik Scott, and we are professional licensed sex therapists.
So remember to watch us Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Edge Radio TV, just in time for sexy time.
All right, moguls, so we're back. So we're going to take a little sip of this conversation cocktail, this Women's International Month cocktail. And women, we have got to support each other. Listen, if someone's coming to you just for advice and opinion, not to get some of your business, they're going to create their own. You know, we can't hesitate. And I say this too with a lot of things that I notice. I love complimenting women, right? I just love, if I love your shoes, I'm going to say, I love those shoes.
Yes.
I love your hair. That dress is you look so beautiful today. You know, it doesn't hurt you to give of yourself, whether it be compliments, whether it be a little bit of knowledge. Now, you don't have to give the whole recipe.
Exactly.
You
don't have to give everything up.
But it's disheartening to me that sometimes we don't want to share because we feel as though it's taking away from us. But I always say, what God has for you is for you. And there is so much business to be had. Why not mentor? Why not share? Why are some women and men do this too, but this is women a month, so we're focusing on women.
This is women's month, yeah.
And I'll be honest, and I've shared this. It's funny because who I end up helping me the most was a Caucasian male and a much older Caucasian woman. So we've got to work a little bit on.
We do. We have to work on helping one another.
Come on now. Please.
And so the two, it's funny because one of the people that helped me tremendously in oil and gas was my director, which was a Caucasian male. And even to this day, we keep in contact. But he was very pivotal in my career. He gave me the promotion that I demanded. And when I say demanded, like literally I said, hey, I'm only going to be here and not get a promotion for 5 years.
So do what you need to do.
Do what you need. And I said, whatever it takes within that 5-year time frame, I'm not going to walk around with a flag and protest and talk about I'm quitting. I'm going to silently leave. And so we have our reviews. It's your opportunity to ask, is there something that I can do better in? But I think if I had to take it back also to, I think why sometimes we don't share as African Americans, we weren't taught to share. So that's tier one of it. We were taught to be segregated. So they segregated us in so many different ways. It was a social class. It was also colorism that took place. And so we have these different divides among African Americans that divided us up. But then we take it to, I have also attempted to help as many people as possible. And then you find those that truly lack integrity.
Oh yeah.
Want to waste your time.
I want to get into real estate. I see how much you do. Can you please? And then you tell them to call you. They forget to call you. Now you're reaching out to me. But when you have someone who's really on you about, that sharing, and we struggle.
Yes.
But it's the same as I say with someone who, we were talking about relationships earlier. I went through this, I went through that as a child. Okay, you're not a child anymore.
Exactly.
Treat people right and do what's right. There has to be a point where you say, you know what? I want God to bless me. I'm gonna bless others. I'm gonna do right.
When
you
start
have to take
giving
accountability.
When you start giving, you will see God open up the floodgates of what He has in store for you. And when you stop getting caught up in this person didn't reciprocate, or I need to see a return on investment. I tell people, set parameters. Even with things that I do from the kindness of my heart and for free, I put a limit on it.
Exactly.
Even, I donate time to nonprofits, but I only donate 4 hours a month and say that's going to be my cutoff. And so make this worth your time because also I still have to be able to live.
Exactly.
And so people
and you have children.
Yeah.
You have to take care of your children as well.
Pick a boundary. And so that keeps me from getting discouraged in God's fight to where He's trying to take me, because if you give all of your energy away, you can't fight the fight that He wants you to fight because you're so exhausted trying to help people that God never intended for you to help.
Let me take a sip of that cocktail. That's a little wisdom mixed with some realness. And we've all experienced.
You ever help somebody and you look up? I think Steve Harvey said this. You started out, y'all was both riding a bike and everybody was pedaling. You look up, they got their feet up. You're like, well, what's going on? Why
hair just blowing in the air? They careful. Fancy free. We all have to do our part. And with that being said, we all have to do our part. Like you said, reaching back and helping out. So I will say this. You have two people. I could have been, I'm so hurt. I can't believe these women that I esteem did not want to share advice and opinion and wisdom with me. I'm just going to be to myself. Or I could have said, which is what I did, okay, you know what? Wow. This is a slap in the face. Like, it is true. We need to help each other more.
Yeah.
Okay, when someone reaches out to me and I know they're serious. It's funny because I have a classmate I went to high school with who I ended up mentoring. And she is just taking off in real estate. And that's what you want to have, a genuine heart to be like, wow, this person really took it and she really
she ran with it.
It's making her lane and doing her, and she is not playing. But isn't that what you should want to do? You should want to see someone and maybe even go higher than you, like whatever God has for them, right?
Yep.
So are you going to be the person that takes an experience and now you become hardened in heart?
Yeah.
But still asking God to bless you though. Or are you going to be a person that's going to say, you know what can I do to help more? What can I do to make it a different experience for someone else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we need to be the people, especially in this time, that reach back and say, I'm going to be the person that gives more. I am going to be the person that reaches back. I'm going to be the person that helps, because we will never see progression if we don't. If we stand in this moment and selfishly say, I am only going to take care of me, we as a culture will never move forward. Never. And so you'll see minute strides. Yes.
Stride.
You micro. There will be micro strides. It's small little steps, and maybe one person will make it, but we won't all make it. And the goal is for all of us to get there. So I think it's so important to reach back, but quantify so you don't get tired in the race of helping others.
Speaking of helping others, some of us need help with our customer service skills.
Yeah.
Speaking of us business owners out here, us entrepreneurs, us that have taken the leap, and we're going to go into business and we're having to have clients.
Yes. Clients are pivotal to you to survive as a business owner.
Now listen, you have some where it is so funny because you have very few businesses that feedback, I guess, if it's a needed, it's kind of like going to, if you own a hospital. People gonna keep going.
Absolutely.
But
because it's a necessity.
Yeah, but if you're, like you said, small to mid businesses, now the corporate world helped you, and I feel like that's what helped me with the corporate world. I always did operations. I started off at a law firm downtown, operations. I always say in operations. And it allowed me to deal with various personalities.
Absolutely.
Knowing how to deal with, I matured throughout the career.
Yeah, exactly. In the beginning, you was like,
this. What? Huh? I've matured.
Yes.
Into where I can smile and, do, because in real estate, especially as you want to go up the ladder with the price point. But trust me, when you go up the ladder, there's different.
The more money you make, the more stress, the more problems that come along, and so you have to be able to manage that.
Yes, and racism is real in real estate as well. Trust me, it's real. So you feel like corporate definitely helped you with your customer service and which is why your business has grown. People are referring you because they know that they're going to get excellent customer service, client service.
Absolutely. So when it comes down to corporate, it taught me the fundamentals of corporate. It also taught me how everything works together. So like you said, even though I was in one particular area of the company, I understood how the other functional areas worked, how what we did fed into those different functional areas. And it helps you to understand what's the process from a customer perspective from start to finish. So even though I'm in, whether it's marketing, and then when I was in oil and gas, I was a senior compliance analyst, so I worked on the operational side. I understood both sides of the business, and it helped me to provide that experience to customers. I think it is important to have a foundation. How you gather that foundation, for me, it was through corporate. But I think we were talking
about online classes.
Exactly. Online classes. You don't necessarily have to go on a corporate job to get that sort of structure. You can get it by means of taking classes, taking courses.
And there are some free, there's even free courses online. If you have 10 complaints in 1 month, you might want to go online.
10 complaints is a lot. Yes.
So this has been a fun.
It has been
fun show, right?
Yes.
So guys, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at mogulonthemove.com, MOGULONTHEMOVE, to keep up with what guests, co-hosts that I have coming up. And so I want to thank you, Latoya.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely reach out to her, all her handles, if you need either a publicist or marketing consultant.
Yes.
And I just pray that your business keeps on flourishing.
I received that. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. All right, guys. Until next time, be safe and be kind. Bye.